Welcome back to Atomic Habits, Part 2, the first law, make it obvious. This is Chapter 4, the man who did not look right. My name is Chris and I'm a physiotherapy student. A story. So a woman attended a family gathering, took a look of her father-in-law, and instantly noticed that something was wrong. Later, the father-in-law was found out to have a blockage of a major artery, which is life-threatening, and undergone a life-saving surgery. That's due to the woman's experience of paramedic that led to pattern recognition. Learning points from the story. The human brain is a prediction machine. It's continuously taking in your surroundings and analyzing the information it comes across. With enough experience, you can pick up on cues that predict certain outcomes without consciously thinking about it. Automatically, your brain encodes the lessons learned through experience. This is one of the most surprising insights about habits. You don't need to be aware of the cue for the habit to begin. You can notice an opportunity and take action without dedicating conscious attention to it. This is what makes habits useful, and it's also what makes them dangerous. As habit forms, your actions come under the direction of your automatic and non-conscious mind. You fall into old patterns before you realize what's happening. Pointing and calling. It's utilized in the Japanese railway system. That's regarded as one of the best in the world. If you ever find yourself riding in a train in Tokyo, you will notice that the conductors have a peculiar habit. As each operator runs the train, they proceed through a ritual of pointing at different objects and calling out commands. When the train approaches a signal, the operator will point at it and say, "Signal is green." As the train pulls into and out of a station, the operator will point at the speedometer and call out exact speed. When it's time to leave, the operator will point at the timetable and state the time. Out on the platform, other employees are performing similar actions. Before each train departs, staff members will point along the edge of the platform and declare, "All clear, everything is identified, point at and named it out." This process, known as pointing and calling, is a safety system designed to reduce mistakes. It seems silly, but it works incredibly well. Pointing and calling reduces errors by up to 85% and cuts accidents by 30%. Why pointing and calling works? Pointing and calling is so effective because it raises the level of awareness from a non-conscious habit to a more conscious level. Because the train operators must use their eyes, hands, mouth, and ears, they are more likely to notice problems before something goes wrong. The more automatic a behavior becomes, the less likely we are to consciously think about it. And when we've done something 1,000 times before, we begin to overlook things. We assume that the next time will be just like the last. We're so used to doing that, what we've always done it. We don't stop to question whether it's the right thing to do at all. Many of our failures to performance are largely attributed to a lack of self-awareness. One of the greatest challenges in changing habits is maintaining awareness of what we are actually doing. This helps explain why the consequences of bad habits sneak up on us. We need a point and call system for our personal lives. That's the origin of habit scorecard, which is a simple exercise you can use to become more aware of your behavior. To create your own, make a list of your daily habits. The habit scorecard in action. Here's a sample of where your list may start. Wake up, turn off alarm, check my phone, go to the bathroom, weigh myself, take a shower, brush my teeth, floss my teeth, put on deodorant, hang up towel to dry, get dressed to make a cup of tea. Once you have a full list, look at each behavior and ask yourself, is this a good behavior, a bad habit, or a neutral one? If it's a good habit, write a plus next to it. If it's a bad habit, write negative, minus. If it's a neutral habit, write an equal sign. Here's a sample of where your list might start. Wake up, equal sign. Turn off alarm, neutral. Check my phone is a negative habit. Go to the bathroom, neutral. Weigh myself, positive habit. Take a shower, a good habit. Brush my teeth, good. Floss my teeth, good. Put on deodorant, good. Hang up my towel to dry, equal sign. Get dressed, equal sign. Make a cup of tea, plus. Marks you give to a particular habit will depend on the situation and your goals. For someone that's trying to lose weight, eating a bagel with peanut butter every morning might be a bad habit. For someone who's trying to bulk up and add muscle, it's the same behavior might be a good habit. Depends on what you're working towards. All habits serve you in some way, even the bad ones, which is why you repeat them. For this exercise, categorize your habits by how they'll benefit you in the long run. Generally, good habits will have a net positive outcome, bad habits have a net negative outcome. Smoking a cigarette may reduce stress right now, that's how you're serving you, but it's not a healthy long-term habit. Having trouble rating your habit, does this behavior help you become the type of person you wish to be? Does this habit cast a vote for or against your desired identity? As you create your habit scorecard, there's no need to change anything at first. Just simply notice it, observe without judgment, don't blame nor praise. So acknowledge it, almost as if you're watching someone else. Oh, how interesting that they would do such a thing. The process of behavior change always starts with awareness. Strategies like pointing, calling, and habit scorecard are focused on getting you to recognize your habits and acknowledging the cues that trigger them, which makes it possible to respond in a way that benefits you. Chapter summary. With enough practice, your brain will pick up on the cues that predict certain outcomes without consciously thinking about it. Once our habits become automatic, we stop paying attention to what we are doing. The process of behavior change always starts with awareness. You need to be aware of your habits before you can change them. Pointing and calling raises your level of awareness from a non-conscious standpoint to a more conscious level by verbalizing your actions. The habit scorecard is a simple exercise that you can use to become more aware of your behavior. Chapter 5. The best way to start a new habit. An experiment. A group of researchers wanted to find out what is a better way to build exercise habits. They recruited 248 participants and divided them into 3 groups: control, motivation, and plan formation groups. Control group received nothing. They were simply asked to track how often they exercised. Motivation group was given some material on the benefits of exercise. Plan formation group received the same material as the motivation group. Plus, they were asked to complete the following sentence. During the next week, I will partake in at least 20 minutes of vigorous exercise on day, at time, in place. In the first and second groups, 35 to 38% of people exercised at least once per week, but 91% of the third group exercised at least once per week, more than double the normal rate. The sentence they filled out is what researchers refer to as implementation intention. That is, a plan that you make beforehand about when and where to act. That is how you intend to implement a particular habit. The punchline is clear. People who make a specific plan for when and where they will perform a new habit are more likely to follow through. Too many people try to change their habits without these basic details figured out. We tell ourselves, I'm going to eat healthier, or I'm going to write more. But we never say when and where these habits are going to happen. We leave it up to chance and hope that we will just remember to do it or feel motivated at the right time. And implementation intention sweeps away foggy notions like I want to work out more, or I want to be more productive, or I should vote, and transform these intentions into a concrete plan of action. Many people think they lack motivation when what they really lack is clarity. It's not always obvious when and where to take action. Some people spend their entire lives waiting for the time to be right to make an improvement. Once an implementation intention has been set, you don't have to wait for inspiration to strike. Do I write a chapter today or not? Do I meditate this morning or at lunch? When the moment of action occurs, there is no need to make a decision. Simply follow your predetermined plan. Implementation in action. The simple way to apply this strategy to your habits is to fill out this sentence. I will behavior at time in location. Meditation. I will meditate for 1 minute at 7 a.m. in my kitchen. Studying. I will study Spanish for 20 minutes at 6 p.m. in my bedroom. Give your habits a time and space to live in the world. The goal is to make the time and location so obvious that, with enough repetition, you get an urge to do the right thing at the right time, even if you can't say why. Obviously, you're never going to just work out without conscious thought, but like a dog saliving at a bell, maybe you start to get angsty around the time of the day you normally work out. Habit stacking. When it comes to building new habits, you can use the connectedness of behavior to your advantage. One of the best ways to build a new habit is to identify a current habit you already do each day, and then stack your new behavior on top. This is called habit stacking. Habit stacking is a special form of implementation intention. Rather than pairing your new habit with a particular time and location, you can pair it with a current habit. This method, which was created by BJ Fogg as part of his Tiny Habits program, can be used to design an obvious cue for nearly any habit. Habit stacking. Continue. The habit stacking formula is after current habit, I will new habit. Habit stacking increases the likelihood that you will stick with a habit by stacking a new behavior on top of an old one. This process can be repeated to chain numerous habits together, each one acting as the cue for the next. For example, meditation. After I pour my cup of coffee each morning, I will meditate for 1 minute. Exercise. After I take off my work shoes, I will immediately change into my workout clothes. The key is to tie your desired behavior into something that you already do each day. Once you mastered this basic structure, you can begin to create larger stacks by chaining small habits together. This allows you to take advantage of the natural momentum that comes from one behavior leading to the next. Your morning habit routine stack might look like this. After I pour my morning cup of coffee, I'll meditate for 60 seconds, and then I'll write my to-do list for the day, and then I'll immediately begin my first task. You can also insert new behaviors into the middle of your current routines. For example, you may already have a morning routine that looks like this. Wake up, make my bed, take a shower. Let's say you want to develop the habit of reading more each night. You can expand your habit stack and try something like this. Wake up, make my bed, place a book on my pillow, and then take a shower. Now, when you climb into bed each night, the book will be sitting there right for you to enjoy. No matter how you use this strategy, the secret to create a successful habit stack is selecting the right cue to kick things off. When and where you choose to insert a habit into a daily routine can make a big difference. If you're trying to add meditation into your morning routine, when mornings are chaotic and your kids keep running into the room, then that may be the wrong place and time. Consider when you are most likely to be successful. Don't ask yourself to do a habit when you are likely to be occupied with something else. Your cue should also have the same frequency as your desired habit. If you want to do a habit every day, but stack it on top of a habit that only happens on Mondays, that's not a good choice. One way to find the right trigger for your habit stack is by brainstorming a list of your current habits. You can use your habit scorecard from the last chapter as a starting point. Alternatively, you can create a list with 2 columns. In the first column, write down the habits that you do each day without fail. For example, get out of bed, take a shower, brush your teeth. In the second column, write down all the things that happen to you each day without fail. For example, the sun rises, the song you are listening to ends, and the sun sets. Armed by these 2 lists, you can begin searching for the best place to layer your new habit into your lifestyle. Habit stacking works best when the cue is highly specific and immediately actionable. Many people select cues that are too vague. I made this mistake myself. By James Clear. When James wanted to start a push-up habit, his habit stack was like when he takes a break for lunch and then he'll do 10 push-ups. At first glance, this sounded reasonable, but soon James realized that this trigger was so unclear. Will I do my push-ups before I ate lunch, or after he ate lunch, or where would he do them? And after a very few inconsistent days, James changed his habit stack into when he closes the laptop for lunch, and then he will do 10 push-ups next to his desk. Ambiguity gone. Chapter summary. The first law of behavior change is make it obvious. The 2 most common cues are time and location. Creating and implementing intention is a strategy you can use to pair a new habit with a specific time and location. The implementation intention formula is I will behavior at time in location. Habit stacking is a strategy you can use to pair a new habit with a current habit. The habit stacking formula is after current habit, I will new habit. Chapter 6. Motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. I'm your physiotherapy student, Chris. A story about eating habits. So Anne, a primary care physician at Massachusetts General Hospital, had a crazy idea. She believed she could improve the eating habits of thousands of hospital staffs and visitors without changing their willpower or motivation in the slightest way. In fact, she didn't plan on talking to them at all. So Anne and her colleagues designed a 6-month study to alter the choice architecture of the hospital cafeteria. They started out by changing how drinks were arranged in the room. Originally, the refrigerators located next to the cash registers in the cafeteria were filled with only soda. The researchers added water as an option to each one. Additionally, they placed baskets of bottled water next to the food stations throughout the room. Soda was still in the primary fridges, but water is now available at all drink locations. Over the next 3 months, the number of soda sales at the hospital dropped by 11.4%. Meanwhile, sales of bottled water increased by 25.8%. They made similar adjustments and saw similar results with the food in the cafeteria. Nobody had said a word to anyone eating there. environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. Despite our unique personalities, certain behaviors tend to arise again and again under certain environmental conditions. In church, people tend to talk in whispers. On a dark street, people act wary and guarded. In this way, the most common form of change is not internal but external. We are changed by the world around us. Every habit is context-dependent. In 1936, psychologist Kurt Lewin wrote a simple equation that makes a powerful statement. Behavior is a function of the person in the environment, or B equals F, open parenthesis, P, comma, E, close parenthesis. Every living being has its own methods of sensing and understanding the world. In humans, perception is directed by the sensory nervous system. Some sensations are conscious, but many are non-conscious. The most powerful of all human sensory abilities, however, is vision. The human body has about 11 million sensory receptors. Approximately 10 million of those are dedicated to sight. Some experts estimate that half of the brain's resources are used on vision. Given that we are more dependent on vision than on any other sense, it should come as to no surprise that visual cues are the greatest catalyst of our behavior. For this reason, a small change in what you can see leads to a big change in what you can do. As a result, you can imagine how important it is to live and work in environments that are filled with productive cues and devoid of unproductive ones. Thankfully, there is good news in this respect. You don't have to be the victim of your environment. You can also be the architect of it. Here are a few ways you can redesign your environment and make the cues for your preferred habits more obvious. If you want to remember to take your medication each night, put your pill bottle directly next to the faucet of the bathroom counter. If you want to practice guitar more frequently, place your guitar stand in the middle of the living room. If you want to remember to send more thank you notes, keep a stack of stationery on your desk. The same strategy can be employed for good habits. By sprinkling triggers throughout your surroundings, you increase the odds that you'll think about your habit throughout the day. Make sure the best choice is the most obvious one. Making a better decision is easy and natural when the cues for good habits are right in front of you. Environmental design is powerful not only because it influences how we engage with the world, but also because we rarely do it. Most people live in a world others have created for them, but you can alter the spaces where you live and work to increase your exposure to positive cues and reduce your exposure to negative ones. Environment design allows you to take back control and become the architect of your life. Be the designer of your world and not merely the consumer of it. Environment design allows you to take back control and become the architect of your life. Be the designer of your world and not merely the consumer of it. The context is a cue. The cues that trigger a habit may start out very specific, but over time your habits become associated not with a single trigger, but with the entire context surrounding the behavior. The mantra James loves to use is one space, one use. James knows a writer who uses his computer only for writing, his tablet only for reading, and his phone only for social media and texting. Every habit should have a home. Focus comes automatically when you are sitting at your work desk. Relaxation is easier when you are in a space designed for that purpose. Sleep comes quickly when it's the only thing that happens in your bedroom. The power of context also reveals an important strategy. Habits can be easier to change in a new environment. It helps to escape the subtle triggers and cues that nudge you towards your current habits. Go to a new place, a different coffee shop, a bench in the park, a corner of your room you seldom use, and create a new routine there. It's easier to associate a new habit with a new context than to build a new habit in the face of competing cues. It can be difficult to go to bed early if you watch television in your bedroom each night. It can be hard to study in the living room without getting distracted if that's where you play your video games. But when you step outside of your normal environment, you leave your behavioral biases behind. You aren't battling old environmental cues, which allows new habits to form without interruption. A stable environment where everything has a place and a purpose is an environment where habits can easily form. Chapter summary. Small changes in context can lead to large changes in behavior over time. Every habit is initiated by a cue. We are more likely to notice cues that stand out. Make the cues of good habits obvious in your environment. Gradually, your habits become associated not with one single trigger, but with the entire context surrounding the behavior. The context becomes the cue. It is easier to build new habits in the new environment because you're not fighting against old cues. This is the last chapter of the part 2, the first law, make it obvious, in Atomic Habits, the secret to self-control, chapter 7. Vietnam War and heroin. 35% of service members in Vietnam had tried heroin, and as many as 20% were addicted. Researchers found that when soldiers who had been heroin users returned home, only 5% of them become re-addicted within a year, and just 12% relapsed within 3 years. In other words, approximately 9 out of 10 soldiers who used heroin in Vietnam eliminated their addiction nearly overnight. Revealed that addictions could spontaneously dissolve if there's a radical change in the environment. Bad habits are also autocatalytic. The process feeds itself. They foster feelings that they're trying to numb. You feel bad, so you eat junk food. Because you eat junk food, you feel bad. Watching television makes you feel sluggish, so you watch more television because you don't have any energy to do anything else. Worrying about your health makes you anxious. It causes you to smoke to ease your anxiety, which makes your health even worse, and soon you're feeling more anxious. It's a downward spiral, a runaway train of bad habits. Chapter summary. The inversion of the first law of behavior changes make it invisible. Once a habit is formed, it is unlikely to be forgotten. People with high self-control tend to spend less time in tempting situations. It's easier to avoid temptation than resist it. One of the most practical ways to eliminate a bad habit is to reduce the exposure to the cue that causes it. Self-control is a short-term strategy, not a long-term one.